If you're an ardent listener to the Afterglow Echoplex podcast, or in a band and thought to yourself, hey, I'd like to contribute a song to the proceedings, then you, my friend, are in luck. Because we both want to hear and feature your music on the podcast. If your band produces music akin to shoegaze, dream pop, noise rock, post-punk, haze wave, dark wave, vaporwave, indie hip-hop, which, to be honest, is sorely lacking from this podcast, or sounds adjacent, by all means, please send your music for consideration on the show. Email afterglowechoplex@gmail.com for more information and details. You make sounds. We want to highlight those sounds. It doesn't get any simpler than that. Hope to hear from you soon.
One full hour of stereophonic music in a single tape.
Coming to you live after the fact, it's Afterglow Echoplex, an indie rock mixtape podcast. On this episode, we have music from Military Wives, Russian Baths, Summer Home, Hazeline, Thought Distortion, and more. I'm your host, Anthony King. Welcome back to the podcast and to this month's episode of the show. The concept of this podcast is simple. I've made you, the listening audience, a 60-minute virtual mixtape featuring contemporary underground indie rock bands of the shoegaze and shoegaze-adjacent varieties. But instead of simply posting a playlist on a site that some of your favorite bands have already pulled their entire catalog of music from, I reached out to the 14 bands you'll hear here today and asked them each for permission to feature their songs. They graciously did, thus making this mixtape a collaborative effort. It's September, and you know what that means, folks. Fall is upon us. And while any season is the reason for shoegaze and shoegaze-adjacent music, autumn, well, to me at least, is the optimal pumpkin spice spell for listening to those hazy-gazy sounds while strolling over a carpet of leaves beneath a cathedral of orange and yellow-hued trees. That's poetry, man. With this in mind, today's episode of the podcast is the first stanza to usher you into the peacoat and scarf season. But before we begin, I would be remiss, I tell you, if I didn't remind you that both Portland's Dreamgaze PDX and Seattle's Tremolo city-spanning weekend-long shoegaze, dream pop, and psych rock festivals are taking place this very month, from September 25th to the 27th. If you just so happen to be in the Pacific Northwest and enjoy the sounds of, say, Asteroid Number 4, Brief Candles, Modati, Pink Breath of Heaven, Topographies, and more, tickets to both city shows are still available. So what are you waiting for? See show notes for links to either festival taking place at Seattle's Central Saloon or right here in Portland, Oregon at the aptly named Swan Dive. You can also listen to the interview with 10,000 Lights and Dreamgaze PDX co-founder Ryan Carroll featured on the previous episode of this very podcast to learn more about this amazing event. And if you're here in Portland and you're looking for a great show to attend, allow me to point you in the direction of Little Cloud Records' Sightgaze mini label showcase trifecta featuring the Stargazer Lilies, along with Los Angeles' Tremors, and Portland, Oregon's legendary Rick Bain and the Genius Position. This show takes place tonight, Thursday, September 4th, at the 6 below the Midnight Society PDX, which is located at 3341 Southeast Belmont Street. The show starts at 7:30 p.m., so be there or... No, you know what? Actually, just get your tickets and be there. Don't let idle laziness be your nostalgia this time. Get to the show and thank me later. Please see show notes for the link to purchase tickets. And with that, let's get on with this show. Today's mixtape opens with a band who smartly and most assuredly named their song after the first half of the venerated podcast you are listening to at this very moment. Now all we need is for another band to title their song Echoplex, and we'd have a surefire hit split 7-inch record on our hands. Sorry, what's that? Oh yeah, go ahead, prep the presses now. Huh? Splatter vinyl? Yeah, sure, go ahead, whatever, who cares? This is Blush Response with the song Afterglow. You are listening to the Afterglow Echoplex podcast.
in your afterglow. Come back, you're so far gone. Hold me close, like the night is Cause if you see it all, you become all I'm trying to know. All I'm trying to know first. Life ain't close. See it all, you become
Since opening its doors in 2003, the stage at the venerable music venue Holocene has been graced by the likes of Billie Eilish, SZA, 100 gecs, Snowstrippers, Goldie, the Eilers Set, and so many, many more. Holocene hosts everything from ambient acts, to rock bands, to techno DJs, and even a Charlie XCX dance night. Holocene's bar features beer, wine, cocktails, and mocktails, and a bevy of non-alcoholic beverage options. Holocene is centrally located at 1001 Southeast Morrison Street here in Portland, Oregon. You can also visit holocene.org, that's HOLOCENE.org, for a list of upcoming concerts and events. Come have fun, see and be seen, while celebrating Portland's vibrant music scene, all at Holocene. All right, welcome back to the show. We just heard the song Eagle Rider by Austin, Texas's Jet Cemetery from the 2024 self-released Eagle Rider single, which will be re-released on the Canary EP in 2026, remastered for Dolby Atmos. This month, Jet Cemetery are releasing Melt Away, the lead single and video from the forthcoming dance EP, The Black Goose, also dropping in 2026 in tandem with the Canary EP, which is tentatively scheduled for release on September 9th. Life in Glass preceded that by North London, UK's Military Wives from their debut EP Howitzer, which was romantically released on February 14th, 2025. And then prior to that, coming to us from Chicago, Illinois, we heard Snowcuffs with the song Sink Down from their 2025 self-released Sink Down EP. Snowcuffs will be supporting the 16th annual, and I love the name of this festival, Shoegaze Festival at Bell's Eccentric Cafe in Kalamazoo, Michigan on Saturday, September 6th, with headliner and equally awesome band Seashine. The band are finalizing their next single with a planned release in the fall, followed by their sophomore EP in either 2025 or 2026. So be on the lookout for that. Real Abstraction by Boston, Massachusetts Chainlay Scene preceded that from their 2024 self-released Real Abstraction single. According to the band, the song was, quote, completely random and a result of one of our many recording studio sessions where we just literally played around with pedals and synths and effects. We do this constantly, and sometimes something great comes out of it. The band will see their full-length album on These Hands Melt Records, which is projected to be released in 2026. Chainlay Scene are playing the Moon Over Salem Festival on September 13th in Salem, Massachusetts, with more shows coming soon. And then prior to that, we had X-Day by Sendai City, Miyagi Prefecture, Japan's Nergali from the band's self-released 2024 X-Day single. So, in preparation for this podcast script that I'm very obviously reading to you from right now, I'll send the band appearing on the episode a brief fill-in-the-blanks questionnaire. One of the questions I ask is if the band's song was ever released through a record label. Now, Nergali wrote back with one of the best responses to this question I've ever received so far. Quote, we are not affiliated with any label. We are free. Nergali is currently preparing to record their second full-length album, and I gotta tell you, I am here waiting for it. And that brings me to a new randomly appearing segment of this podcast, Afterglow Echoplex Life Hacks. Afterglow Echoplex Life Hacks number 1, always have something to look forward to. And then, starting the first side of today's mixtape, we have the song Afterglow by Edinburgh, Scotland by way of Adelaide, South Australia's Blush Response from the 2022 self-released Afterglow single. Blush Response's sophomore album, Paroxemia, is currently in the recording process. According to Blush Response's Alistair Douglas, this album is 7 years in the making. He just needs to put his guitar back together since packing it into a suitcase in parts. Presumably from his ocean-spanning trip. From Australia to Scotland. But once that's done, he'll see how it goes. Alistair, I've never put a guitar together, but I think you need to. Get the screwdriver out, the hammer, the bandsaw, whatever it is you use to put guitars back together. Get your guitar back together, make some more music, because that song is truly amazing. We need more Blush Response in the world. Anywho, up next on the second side of today's mixtape is a song about growing up and the inevitability of death, with nods towards Christianity, as it was intensely present in the band's songwriter's childhood. This is Vertical Space with the song Hands with Holes. You are listening to the Afterglow Echoplex podcast.
gone to sleep in your bed while you were drunk and you dreamed your friends, and every night goes on just like that. It's a tit for tat, those times are gone and went. And have you ever walked past the place you lived and thought, well, what a time that it has been? The clock is running fast and strong, and when it ends you'll be nothing at all. Have you considered where you go when you die? They don't teach you the code, that's for you to decide. Do you believe in an afterlife? When it's time to go, you make up your mind. And have you ever walked past the place you lived and thought, wow, what a time that it has been? The clock is running fast and strong, and when it ends you'll be nothing at all. When you meet St. Peter at the gates, will you show him anything? Will you show him hands with holes? Or will you show him nothing at all?
Untethered same. The pendulum swings either way. The things you do and the words you say, the ties that bind begin to fray. The dominoes don't choose to play. It's not their world, it's not their game. There has to be another way. You start again, you seize the day. We heard he thought of leaving town. Not up to us to get him through. There's nothing more to say to someone with his past. Everything you've heard of him is true. I watched him go, and I watched him change. The ritual, all that remains, the memory and the life we made, to reminisce until they fade. He found a new life of his own, giving up everything he's known, and hoping that this time the remedy will last. I guess this time he's really grown. Something's changed, he's not the same. There's nothing more left to reclaim.
Super Electric Records isn't just any old Portland record shop. Besides specializing in new and used post-punk, electronic, psych, and jazz records, Super Electric, much like Voltron or a combiner from the Transformers, is one piece of a cultural hub that also includes Lost Avenue Books, the Beacon Sound record label, Musique Plastique, and more. Located at 2732 Northeast MLK Boulevard and open Tuesday through Sunday from noon to 6 p.m., this super spot is so mighty it doesn't need outdoor signage. Just Mondays off to recharge the pure awesomeness one storefront can contain. Oh, and have I mentioned the incredibly nice crew that calls this space home? Actually, I think I just did. You'll see when you get there. Super Electric Records, one part of your one-stop shop for records, books, zines, stickers, pins, and more. Oh, hello there. Welcome back to the show. You just heard the song Aches from Dallas, Texas's Maybe in the Next Life from the 2025 very recently released self-titled EP. Prior to that, we had the song Something's Changed by Cambridge, UK's Summer Home from their 2025 self-released Something's Changed single. And then prior to that, we had Through and Through by Whidbey Island, Washington's Temporary Drag from the 2024 self-released Through and Through single. Temporary Drag's Scott Scharinger notes that he has a few singles in the works that should be ready by this fall or the winter. Prior to that, we had the song Every Loss by Leeds UK by way of San Francisco Bay Area's Hazeline from the 2024 self-released Every Loss single. Hazeline has new material on the way, as they've been in recording sessions in London with Ian Flynn from Whitelands and Cheerless, and are currently in the mixing process. Hazeline hopes to have this new single out by sometime in October. And looking forward to that. Looking forward to all these new releases. I don't know why I put that little caveat at the end of each of these, like, oh, looking forward to that. Because I'm always looking forward to new songs by every band that's appeared on the podcast. I think that should go without saying. And I just said it. So there you go. And then prior to that, we had Blue Skies for Sore Eyes by Philadelphia, Pennsylvania's Cigarettes for Breakfast from the 2025 self-released album Slow Motion on Abandon Everything Records. And then prior to that, we had the song Taro by Mission Viejo, California's Thought Distortion. Now, Thought Distortion's Connor Richards did me a huge solid providing this minute-long track, which was written specifically for this podcast, to kind of fill out the 30-minute runtime of this side of the mixtape. I didn't have enough time. I think it went to like 28 minutes, and I needed something to kind of fill that gap. And, Connor came through in a big way, and just wanted to say, Connor, thank you so much. That was awesome. This is a track that was written specifically for this episode of the podcast. Now, Thought Distortion's EP and most recent single were both released on Pleasure Tapes. The band is currently in the process of recording their first album, and if all goes as planned, Connor notes, it's going to be released in 2026. And then, prior to that, we had Secret Keys by Brooklyn, New York's Russian Baths from the 2024 album Mirror on Good Eye Records. Russian Baths are in the studio finishing both an album and an EP. That is how much they love your ears. Not just an album, not just an EP, but an album and an EP. And then, opening the second side of today's mixtape, we had the song Hands with Holes by Delaware County, Pennsylvania's Vertical Space from the 2025 self-released album The Pulse That Shivers Before It Goes. The band's currently recording their new album, so definitely stay tuned for that. I know I will. How about you, listener? Did I just make that weird? A little bit. Anyway, now we get to the newest, latest, greatest, freshest smelling segment of the podcast called Recommendation Corner. And I've got a great one for you. They're always going to be great, these recommendations. So just take my word for it. Here are some words. Eagle Hall Australia's Superliminal Objects first appeared on episode 10 of the podcast last March. In that time, they have been producing and recording their debut self-titled album, which is set for release this month, Friday, September 19th. Now I've heard that you're pretty keen on Cocteau Twins, Slowdive, Julie Cruz, This Mortal Coil, Brian Eno, and just about every and all hazy gazy dream pop echoes thereabouts. Well then, Superliminal Object's debut disc will definitely provide the sounds you want wafting around those finely calibrated ears of yours. Like being wrapped in a warm cocoon of beauty, love, and honey, the 8 songs here wash over your soul like a soothing salve that these stubbornly broken times of ours so desperately, desperately need. Bathed in lush harmonic vocals and swirling guitar textures, Superliminal Object's gentle, effortlessly gliding debut album proper will be in the heavens this month on the 19th, waiting for you to float up and meet it. Make sure to have both your jetpack and earphones prepped for this truly breathtaking album. Please see show notes for the links to Superliminal Object's Bandcamp page. And with that, let's go to the copy. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Afterglow Echoplex podcast. This podcast would not be possible without the contributions of the absolutely wonderful and talented bands featured on today's episode. I highly encourage you to check out each of these bands by going to their websites and Bandcamp pages. Please see show notes for info and links. Buy an album in the format of your choosing. If any of these bands or musicians are touring and coming to your town, go see them! After the show, impress them with your close-up magic tricks that you've expertly honed over the weeks, months, years. Afterglow Echoplex is produced, compiled, and recorded by me, Anthony King. Today's episode was produced in direct collaboration with the bands featured here. Intro and outro songs by Lilies. Thanks, Kurt. Cover art photographs by Blue Calypso Photographs. Afterglow Echoplex is a Rocket Science Alliance production. If you would like to write into the podcast with listener correspondence, please send your letters to afterglowechoplex@gmail.com. If you like what you heard today, please rate, review, subscribe, and turn on notifications for the show on the podcast catcher of your choice. Or, if you derive any intrinsic value from them whatsoever, please consider becoming a regular donating member to your local PBS and NPR stations. Thank you again for listening to today's show. Coming up on the next episode of the Afterglow Echoplex podcast, we're finally ready for all that seasonal stuff stores put out 2 months prior, while taking a shopper's respite soundtrack to the sounds of Cloud Studies, Moonwards, Purple Space, Nice Wave, Sunny Intervals, and more. Until next time, keep celebrating the scene.